This lesson introduces the definition of domain and range. We will use the definition to determine the domain and range from the graph of a function. We start with the definition of domain and range. Suppose f is a relation which describes y as a function of x. The set of x coordinates of the points in f is called the domain of f. The set of the y coordinates of the point in f is called the range of f. In this first example, we will determine the domain and range by observing this graph of a function. And if you recall the vertical line test, this is indeed a function, as any vertical line passes through the graph at most one time. The domain is a set of all x coordinates that are used in points on the graph. We can determine the domain by observing the shadow or projection of the graph on the x-axis. So if we imagine this graph being projected onto the x-axis, we can shade in the x-axis all the way from -2 to 4. All points from -2 to 4 will have been projected onto our x-axis from the graph, and that gives us our domain. Our domain is all x coordinates included in the closed interval from -2 to 4. What about the range? Well, let's next see if we can find the range of this function. The range is a set of all y coordinates that are used in points on the graph. We can determine the range by observing the shadow or projection of the graph on the y-axis. So again, imagine this graph being projected onto the y-axis from each direction in this case. If we do project this graph onto the y-axis, we will have y coordinates beginning at -3 all the way up to 3, including both of those endpoints. So our range is the closed interval of y coordinates from -3 to 3. In this next example, we will again determine the domain and range. By the vertical line test, you can see that once again we have a function. Projecting this graph onto the x-axis to find the domain, we have the points -3, -2, -1, 1, and 3. Our domain is the set of x coordinates -3, -2, -1, 1, and 3. What about the range here? The range is the set of y coordinates that are included on our graph. Again, let's try projecting our y coordinates onto the y-axis. If we do that, we'll see that we end up with the set of y coordinates -3, -1, 0, 2, and 3. Try finding the domain and range of this next function on your own. The graph includes a line segment from -3, 3 to -1, -1, with an open circle at -1, -1. A second line segment starts at -1, 3 and ends at 3, 1.